Authority does not explain itself. Not because it cannot, because it does not need to. The moment someone begins constantly explaining their decisions, their authority begins to shrink. They justify the rule, they defend the boundary, they negotiate the decision. And every explanation quietly sends the same signal. This position is open for debate. Authority does not operate through debate, it operates through clarity. Most people misunderstand this. They believe explanation equals fairness. They believe justification equals leadership. They believe the more you explain, the more legitimate you appear. But explanation often creates the opposite effect. When every decision is defended, people begin to question it. When every rule is justified, people begin to test it. When every boundary is explained, people begin to negotiate it. And negotiation weakens structure. Authority understands something simple. Not every decision requires approval. Some decisions simply stand. A leader decides the direction. A parent sets the boundary. A disciplined person draws the line. The moment that line requires endless justification, it stops being a line. It becomes a suggestion. Authority is not loud. It does not argue for its position. It occupies it. The person who truly holds authority rarely feels the need to defend every action, because their position is not built on persuasion. It is built on stability. People sense this stability. They recognize it instinctively. Consider how often insecurity reveals itself through explanation. Someone makes a decision, then immediately begins defending it, clarifying it, softening it, apologizing for it. Each word weakens the decision because the explanation implies doubt. Authority rarely carries doubt into the room. It carries certainty. This certainty does not require aggression. It does not require intimidation. It requires composure. A calm decision spoken once often carries more authority than 10 defensive explanations. Because calm signals stability, and stability signals control. People trust what appears grounded, not what appears defensive. Authority never rushes to explain itself, because true authority is not trying to convince anyone. It is establishing direction. And direction does not ask for permission. It simply moves forward.
Over-explaining is rarely about clarity.
It is about reassurance. When someone repeatedly explains their position, they are often trying to secure agreement, approval, acceptance. But authority is not built on agreement. It is built on structure. The moment your decisions depend on universal approval, your authority becomes conditional. And conditional authority is fragile. People begin to sense the hesitation. They hear it in the extra words. They notice it in the defensive tone. You say the decision, then you explain it, then you soften it, then you justify it. By the time the explanation finishes, the decision no longer feels firm. The problem is not explanation itself. Explanation can be useful, but constant explanation signals uncertainty. Authority speaks clearly, once. It does not repeat itself endlessly to gain validation. Consider how easily people test a position that sounds negotiable. If a rule is followed by long explanations, someone will try to challenge it. If a boundary is justified repeatedly, someone will try to push it. Because explanation suggests flexibility. Flexibility has its place, but authority requires limits. Without limits, structure collapses into suggestion. The strongest leaders understand this balance. They do not explain every decision. They explain when clarity is necessary. And they remain silent when explanation would weaken the position. Silence can carry more authority than justification, because silence implies certainty. The decision stands, whether or not it is applauded. People instinctively recognize this stability. They feel when a line cannot be easily moved. And when people sense that a boundary is firm, they stop trying to negotiate it. Over-explaining invites pressure. It opens space for argument. It signals that the position may still change. Authority closes that space. It does not rush to defend itself. It does not scramble to justify its presence. It states the direction. Then it holds it. Because the moment you begin defending your authority excessively, you are no longer exercising it. You are asking for permission to keep it.
If you're done living in distraction,
Like and subscribe. This channel exists to help you protect your attention and build something real.
authority collapses long before people realize it.
Not through rebellion, through negotiation. It begins the moment authority starts explaining itself too often. A rule is set, then explained, then softened, then defended again. At first, the structure still appears intact, but something subtle has shifted. The rule no longer feels absolute, it feels negotiable. And once something feels negotiable, people begin to test it. This is where erosion begins, not through confrontation, through curiosity. Someone asks why the rule exists. Someone else questions whether it is necessary. Another person proposes an exception. And because the rule was already explained once, it must now be explained again. Explanation multiplies pressure. Each justification creates another opening, another question, another challenge, another attempt to move the line. This process is rarely aggressive, it is gradual. People lean against the boundary, then lean again, then lean harder, until the boundary moves. And the moment it moves, authority loses gravity. Gravity is what makes authority stable. It is the sense that certain decisions are fixed, certain boundaries are immovable, certain lines do not shift with pressure. Once gravity disappears, structure becomes fragile. People no longer adapt to authority, authority begins adapting to people. This reversal changes everything. When authority adapts constantly, it becomes reactive. When it becomes reactive, it becomes predictable. When it becomes predictable, it becomes controllable. And controllable authority is not authority. It is management under pressure. The most powerful forms of authority avoid this trap entirely. They do not rush to justify themselves. They do not defend every boundary. They do not negotiate every decision. Instead, they allow structure to stand, calmly, consistently. When someone asks why the boundary exists, the answer is simple. Because it does. Not because it cannot be explained, because it does not require explanation to remain valid. This quiet certainty stabilizes the structure. People sense when a rule will not move. They recognize when a decision is final. They feel when a line is not open to debate. Once that recognition appears, testing stops. Pressure fades. Questions diminish. Authority regains gravity. And gravity changes behavior. When people sense stability, they adjust themselves instead of trying to adjust the structure. This is the difference between authority that survives and authority that slowly dissolves. One constantly explains itself. The other simply stands.
Authority
Does not need to raise its voice. It does not chase approval. It does not rush to defend every decision. Because true authority understands something simple. The more you explain yourself unnecessarily, the more you invite challenge. Not every decision requires persuasion. Not every boundary requires debate. Not every direction requires agreement. Authority is not built through endless justification. It is built through consistency. People learn the strength of authority through repetition. A decision is made, the decision holds. Pressure appears, the decision still holds. Over time, something subtle happens. People stop testing it. Not because they were forced, because they recognize stability. Stability creates gravity. Gravity shapes behavior. When people sense that a boundary will not move, they adjust themselves instead of trying to move the boundary. That is the quiet power of authority. Authority does not negotiate its existence. It occupies its position. It does not rush to justify every rule, because rules constantly defended begin to feel uncertain, and uncertainty weakens structure. The strongest leaders understand this instinctively. They speak clearly. They decide calmly. They repeat themselves rarely. Their authority comes from composure, not performance. A calm statement delivered once often carries more power than 10 explanations spoken defensively, because calm signals certainty, and certainty stabilizes direction. This does not mean authority ignores reason. It means authority chooses when explanation is necessary, not when it is demanded. The moment authority begins explaining itself to every challenge, it begins surrendering its weight. Real authority carries weight quietly. It does not chase validation. It does not argue for its existence. It simply stands. And over time, that stillness becomes influence. Because people trust what does not move easily. They respect what does not react emotionally. They follow what appears stable. Authority never explains itself constantly, because authority does not need to prove it exists. It is already present. If this sharpens something for you, like the video, subscribe, then practice speaking less and standing firmer.